everybody, I'm Matt with Mike's Bikes, and I'm really excited today to talk to you about something brand new that's coming to the Mike's Bikes family. We are going to be the exclusive shop in the United States for Bold cycles. Bold is a European brand that's been around for a little while, but they've never before been available in the US. We are getting 55 bikes any day now, and it's going to be the only bikes available in the entire US for the entire model year. So these bikes are amazing, they're super rad, and I'm going to tell you all about it. So who is Bold? Bold is a small mountain bike company out of Switzerland that has for several years been making some pretty rad bikes. If you pay attention to the bike forums and kind of the global marketing of mountain bikes, you might be familiar with them. But a few years ago, Scott Bikes purchased Bold because they were known for internal suspension. They have been able to put the rear suspension system inside the frame. So Scott purchased the company in order to use that technology to put into their Scott bikes. So you might recognize this from the Scott Spark, which has been getting rave reviews and is a pretty amazing bike. It's done very well at the highest levels of the sport. So the technology that Bold developed for their bikes was acquired by Scott, so that's why you see a lot of similarities to the bikes. So when we first started the conversation about Bold, I had never heard of the bikes. And looking at them on paper, kind of a quick overview, they checked a lot of boxes for kind of the modern trail bike. Cool, and they looked amazing. But I was like, we're not gonna do this until we can ride one and make sure that it's a great bike. So before we dug too deep into the bike, they sent us the bike you see behind me, and I got a chance to take it out and ride it. And holy crap, from day one, on the very first ride, I was like, there's some kind of magic going on in this bike. It just felt like a lot of different bikes all in one. It was phenomenal. The bike felt super planted and stable, and a lot of control and confidence going through the real chunky stuff. And I just kept thinking in my head, holy crap, is it possible for a bike to be both light and planted at the same time? It just was this magic combination going back and forth. That I just could not find a situation on the trail where the bike was not amazing and kind of brought a smile to my face. So let's get into the bike a little bit and try to understand what it is about the bike that makes it ride so well. Let's start with geometry. First off, it's pretty progressive in terms of modern trail bike geometry. For a 150 bike, it's got just over a 64-degree head angle, which is pretty slack. It's got a 460 reach in a medium, which is pretty long. The seat angle is almost 78 degrees. And then you've got a really short chainstay at 434, for a 29-inch bike, that's pretty short. So all of those things combine to make a bike with spot-on handling in a lot of different situations. Now you couple that with the unique suspension design. The first thing that stands out is the fact that the shock is enclosed entirely inside the frame. So protecting that shock from all the elements keeps the suspension performing better for much longer, reduces maintenance, really has a lot of benefits on that side, but then also it's about as low as you can possibly get. All of the center of gravity is down near the bottom bracket, right? The shock is right there behind the cranks. The linkage is all down really low. So what that means is the bike is really light, kind of the upper half of it. So it's really easy to get up and over into a corner and change direction quickly. And then how they've designed the suspension curve, you hear a lot about, everybody talks about, supple in the first part of the travel, some good mid-stroke support, and then kind of a bottomless feel. But this bike really delivers on that promise. So over chattery stuff, high speed, small impacts, the bike just floats over it. It really feels supple. But that mid-stroke support in the middle does a couple things. You feel as you get bigger impacts, you start to feel a little bit more of the plushness, but then also when you're climbing, that mid-stroke support holds you in a great position. You couple that with the steep seat angle, and you're in a great position for climbing on all sorts of terrain. And then you really do have this bottomless suspension feel. When you hit these bigger impacts, the bike still feels really planted and confident. So it delivers on all three pieces of that travel. So in addition to some pretty amazing suspension kinematics and geometry, which create this great ride, there's a lot of other innovations in the bike that are super cool. One of them is what they call track lock. There's some levers on the left side of the bar which control the rear shock. In the mid position, it basically shrinks the air canister, reduces the travel, so it really increases the mid-stroke support. So when you're climbing, you're held higher up in the travel, so you're not sagging as much, so it keeps you in a better position to pedal and really get traction, but you still have a little bit of supple suspension to ride up and over roots and rocks. So it's a pretty neat climbing experience, also because the bike is so light. The second really cool thing about this bike is the adjustable geometry. So up in the headset, you can flip the cup around. You've seen that on a few other bikes, and you can adjust the head angle by almost 1.5 degrees, from 64.2 to 65.6, I think. There's also a flip chip in the back, which helps raise and lower the bottom bracket, I think by about 8 millimeters. So you have a couple different combinations to really make the bike shine in your particular terrain. And the last really cool thing about this bike is the internal storage. So because you remove that cover to access the shock, the entire down tube is empty, and the bikes come stock with what they call a save the day kit. So you have a tube and a pump and tire levers and a multi-tool all already inside the frame, and again, keeping that weight nice and low. So a lot of really cool modern innovations that you're seeing from a lot of brands out there, all combined into this one amazing bike. You add it with the suspension, the geometry, and you can understand why I'm so excited about these bikes. So let's talk about the models. We have the Linkin 150 and the Linkin 135. Pretty much the exact same frame. There's some internal linkage differences, and then with the front fork, that's what creates the travel difference. And then within each of those two bikes, there are two spec levels, an Ultimate and a Pro. These bikes are gonna range from $6,500 at the low end to $12 grand at the high end, and a couple models in between. So this is just our first look of this bike. We're gonna have another video coming out soon about how it rides on trail. So go ahead and click right here to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow along. Thanks, everybody.